just got the first copy of my book.
Prior to entry, and be posted by Legal Immigration Services.
Guys, how are you? It's Brett Miller here from
Fantastic service. Fantastic.
Always recommend me.
Hey guys, how are you? It's Brendan here, and I am here with Patrick and Anna, and today we're going to be talking about the CELPIP. So, in case you don't know what the CELPIP is, you're going to know by the end of this Q&A session, because we're going to do a rapid fire Q&A session with Patrick and Anna, and we're going to ask them a bunch of the most popular questions that surround the CELPIP test. Hey guys, how are you?
Hey, Brandon. Nice to see you again. How are you?
Yeah, good to see you guys. You guys have been keeping well?
Always.
Trying, yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. Yep. Okay, so let's dive in here. I got a number of questions, and what we've done is we've pulled together some of the most common questions that come up with respect to the CELPIP test. So again, for those of you who aren't familiar with the CELPIP test, there's different tests that you can take in order to come to Canada for immigration purposes or for study purposes, but we're going to get more into the CAIL later. Yeah, so we're going to ask a few questions. So question one, Patrick, let's make this rapid fire. So just give us the details in like, boom, because we got a number of questions here. So first one, is CELPIP accepted for Canadian immigration purposes, i.e. permanent residency? Yes, I know that's a low hanging one for you, but what do you say?
Yeah, that is low-hanging fruit, but yeah, I'll answer that. That's a great question. So it is accepted for immigration to Canada, so permanent residency and the different categories. So we have the CELPIP general test, which covers the four main skills: listening, reading, writing, and speaking. And in Canada, the test price is $280 Canadian plus tax.
Whoa, slow down. That's another question. You're robbing my questions. This is rapid fire. It's rapid fire. I'm cutting you off. We're going to edit that out. No, I'm just joking. Okay, so you got the CELPIP test. I thought there was different versions.
So there are two types of CELPIP tests, but our academic test is a different test, which I'll answer a little bit later. But yeah, there is a CELPIP test for immigration as well as one for citizenship.
Cool. What's the difference between the two?
So the one for permanent residency is the CELPIP general test. So that covers the four skills, as I mentioned. Whereas when somebody needs to prove their English for Canadian citizenship, they only have to prove their listening and speaking levels. So we have a CELPIP test where you only take the listening and speaking sections, and it's actually called the CELPIP General LS test, L for listening, S for speaking. And that test is a little bit cheaper because you're only taking two skills instead of four. So you're looking at about $195 Canadian plus tax. So those are the two types that we offer, depending on the reason that you have to take the test.
Okay, cool. So let me get to my other question that was down there, just to confirm. What is the cost of the test, Patrick?
I'm so glad that you asked, Brandon. It's the CELPIP general test is $280 plus tax. So that's the price varies a little bit internationally, but that's the test you'd have to take for immigration purposes. And then the second test that you would take, the CELPIP General LS for citizenship, that is only $195 Canadian plus tax. So if you're living in Ontario, we got that lovely 13% tax, provincial tax. So that'll be about $220 for the CELPIP General LS test if you're taking it in Ontario.
Okay, cool. And you mentioned that the price varies internationally. And no, I'm not going to start getting into what the prices are all over the place. But I know, I think I chatted about this with you before. And one of the things, am I correct in saying that when somebody registers for a test with you guys, they register with the test centrally through CELPIP, correct?
Yes. Yeah, it's all done through one central system on the CELPIP website, which is celpip.ca.
Okay, cool. And the reason I asked that is because we were chatting about this, I believe, a little while ago, or at least maybe I'm inventing things in my head. I don't know. But when they announced that new TR to PR program, there was a long wait for tests and everything. But the other tests that you can use for immigration purposes, people were actually charging exorbitant fees for that test. Did you hear about that?
I think we were so busy, wrapped up in trying to accommodate the mad flow that we actually didn't hear too much about that. I know it was a really stressful time for test takers, especially, and us as well. So yeah, we're thankful that things have quieted down and we've accommodated many test takers. So we're happy about that.
That's so awesome. That's so awesome. Okay, so let's dive in here. So, what's the main differences between a CELPIP and maybe some of the other English proficiency tests that are out there?
Yeah, lovely question. So basically, the first C in CELPIP does stand for Canadian. So that's the biggest difference is that the test was developed in Canada, in BC. So it does incorporate Canadian accents in the listening section. So when you're listening to the audio clips in your headset, it will be a Canadian accent. And the entire test does incorporate North American English, so English spoken in both the US and Canada. So that's the major difference, is that it does use Canadian English. There's a few other differences as well. So the speaking section, it's not a live face-to-face interaction with a speaking examiner. So you're going to be following the instructions on the computer screen and then talking into your computer headset microphone that you'll have at the test center. So that will eliminate some face-to-face anxiety that you might have, worrying about making eye contact with the examiner, your body language. You won't have to worry about that because the responses that you provide into the microphone are going to be recorded and listened to at a later date and graded by CELPIP speaking raters. So it's a little bit different setup. So just would encourage test takers to familiarize yourself with that format. That way you're ready to take the CELPIP test if that's what you decide to do. The writing section, actually, it's a handy feature that we take for granted on Microsoft Word. So spell check, the writing section does incorporate spell check. So on the real test, if you misspell a word as you're typing in the writing section, the system will underline it in red, the same as on Microsoft Word. And then you can right click on the misspelled word and it will give you suggestions. So that's kind of like a helpful aid that we don't realize how important it is, and we use it every day. So you have that in the real CELPIP test.
Are you kidding me? Man, I live by F7 on the keyboard. Like, I love that. So yeah, no, that's awesome, because I'll tell you what, I don't know about you, but when I write an email, I'm just like, get it all out, spelling mistakes, don't care. And then it's like red, and then you go back. So that's awesome.
Yeah, right on. That's
awesome. All right, so let's dive in. What are the recommendations for test prep? So, you know what? Let's get Anna in on this, and let's start off with the number one thing that each of you would recommend if you were just, say, sitting in a cafe and one of your friends was taking the test and they said, "Hey, can you give me just one tip? What should I do?" So let's start with that golden tip first, and then we'll move on to some other stuff. Anna, hit us.
Well, as an instructor, every time I have this conversation with other people, I always tell them, if you're going to be practicing the speaking sections, always record yourself. I think that's the best thing that you can do, because many times, even as an English native speaker, many times I'll record myself, or when I'm doing certain types of videos, or if I'm having meetings and doing presentations, we sometimes make mistakes, and it's natural to make mistakes. But if you want to improve your flow, improve your pronunciation, and not repeat as many words constantly, the best thing to do is to record yourself, because that way you can know if your information is organized, if it's clear, if you're not using repetitive words. So there's so many great things about recording yourself. And even if you're strong enough, if you have the decency to let other people listen to you and see if they can understand the information. Because even if they don't know the question, they should be able to understand what the person is talking about just by listening to that. So I would highly recommend that they record themselves and listen to it afterwards.
Man, that right there is like that's a golden tip. I got to tell you. But you know what? I got to tell you, most people hate listening to themselves. Did you know that? And it's funny because recently, just here's a total aside note. Recently, you know, the reason for that is because what you hear when you're speaking, as opposed to what's being recorded, is different the way that your ear interprets it. And a lot of people hear something totally different.
Yep.
So it's funny. That's why I was smiling when you were saying that, because I know what an awesome piece of advice that is, but I'm like, ooh, is that what I sound like? So okay, cool. Patrick, what's your tip, buddy?
What I would say is this kind of applies to everybody. Is just don't underestimate the test. So that means, you know, you may be really confident in your English abilities. Maybe English is your first language, but you have to know the test format, familiarize yourself with the tips, the strategies, because don't just think that, you know, because your English is great that you're just going to ace the test. So just be prepared, give yourself enough time. A good benchmark is to take the free online sample test, which is on the website. That mimics the real test. So that'll give you a good indication of how much preparation will be required for your unique situation. So just don't underestimate the test. Do your best, prepare. Even if you're a native English speaker, learn the test format. I remember, Brandon, you mentioned something about the driving test and how
Driving test
analogy. Yeah. What was that analogy?
So I say this all the time because I generally have a problem with people that are from native English countries, because what they do is there's a difference between proficiency in English and proficiency in the test and understanding what you're being tested on. There's a difference. And a lot of times people put those two together, and that's the biggest mistake that I see. And what I say all the time is I say, think of it like a driving test. Like, I've been driving for like 20 or 30 years, but quite frankly, like, I'm not driving for how they want me to drive on the test. And, again, I don't drive with my hands at 10 and 2, right? And I'm not looking in the mirror every 8 seconds. It's more like, kind of this or like this. I'm not looking at the phone, but you know what I mean? So it's not like what they want on the test. And I think that that's a really good illustration of what the difference is. But I'll tell you, that right there is the number one thing that people people mess that up all the time. So those are good pieces of advice. Okay, let's move on. Rapid fire. How far in advance should you study for the test?
Yeah, so that's I would just say that, the best benchmark is to learn about the test format, take the sample test. That'll give you a good gauge as to how much preparation might be required for you. But I would say at least 2 months in advance would be ideal if you're at kind of an intermediate level of English. I don't know if, Anna, you wanted to expand on anything.
Well, I mean, 2 months seems like a long time, but it gives you at least a really good indication as to how you're doing. And it is important to practice regardless of what level of English you have. But if your level is too low, sometimes the recommendation first might be to take some English classes. So that's why it really depends on each person individually. And I do agree with Patrick that it's best to at least try the test, go through the test, have a feeling as to how it is for you, because independently each person will feel differently. Some people might say, oh, this was very easy, but other people may struggle doing this. So it's best to see how they feel first, and if they think that they need additional help, where they can go and to a classroom to prepare, or they can do this on their own, then at least they'll have sort of some notion as to how they are. I know with Brandon, you studied for the CALE test, right? Did you practice ahead of time? Did you go through it? Did you at least try to preview it before you did the test? How was your preparation for this?
Wow, you guys have some good memories, I gotta say. So yeah, I did study for the Kale test, and I studied real hard. And the reason is because I, like you, Anna, used to teach English, and you know, I know that it's all about the preparation, and plus, you know, I was kind of like, yeah, I got to do this test, and I got to make sure that it's fine, and I can't be getting these low scores because that's kind of like, hey, what were you doing all those years when you were teaching? So yeah, I studied really hard for it actually. And yeah, again, I don't know. I think I was a couple of weeks out. I didn't do that, but I did get the test. I did buy a test prep kit, I think, something like that. And I worked through it just because I knew from all the years of working with these types of tests that if you don't study, then you got to study for the test, and it's not your proficiency. You got to understand what you're being tested on. So yeah, cool. Did anybody else have anything to add on that?
I think one thing to note is that there are a lot of great resources that we have available online. So even if people are struggling or if they're not sure about it or they just need to review a section of the test, it's great that they would go online to celpip.ca, and there's a section that says free resources. And we even have webinars. We have live webinars for people who would like to practice a certain section of the test, if it's speaking or writing or even reading. So there's all these different tips and strategies and ways to practice, ways to study. So there's a lot of great resources out there. And we also obviously have paid material as well. But if there's, at least to start off, to start thinking about preparing, these are great avenues for them.
Awesome. Awesome. Really quickly, does the CELPIP have an academic version?
Yes. Thank you for asking. So we actually have a test called kale. And to start off, we're not talking about the vegetable kale. We're talking about kale that's spelled CAEL, and it stands for Canadian Academic English Language Test. So this test is an academic test. It's an English proficiency test, and it measures the student's ability for any student that is planning to study in Canadian universities or colleges.
Yes, not the vegetable, that green leafy vegetable, but yeah, no. Well, you know what? We're going to talk about the kale though, but let's keep moving here. So we know that it's computer delivered, but here's a question: can it be taken online?
Yes. Okay. So this is definitely a computer delivered test, and you have actually two options to take the test. You can do it at a test center, and we have that available in various different locations, especially here in Canada and the US. And we do have other locations across the globe. But because it's sometimes limited for some people or they can't find a test center near their region, we've developed, it's the same test. It's called Kale Online. And now you are able to take it at the comfort of your own home. Now, one of the requirements we do ask is that they have an updated computer, that they have a great Wi-Fi connection, but you are able to take it at home as long as you are in a room all by yourself and you're able to take the test. Then yes, that is a definite option. And a lot of people nowadays are starting to go through that route because that way they don't have to go to the actual test center. They don't need to wear the masks because you're at home. So there is some great benefits of taking it at home.
How about for CELPIP, Patrick?
I would love to say that we do, but no, at the present time, CELPIP has to be taken at the test center. Of course, never say never, but keep checking back on the website, and we'll post any updates to test delivery there. But yeah, it's great that that with Kale they do have the choice. CELPIP, though, given the current COVID regulations, it will feel a little bit more comfortable now than it did pre-COVID, because there will be less test takers in one test room now, and you will have more space now between you and the next person. So we'll be a little bit more comfortable. I know tests aren't comfortable, but as much as possible. So.
Yeah. Okay. Let me dive in with another test here, or another question here. And this is something that I guess I get, more than a few times from clients. So they would go through, again, a lot of times people will ask if they can mix and match different things. I'm like, no, you got to put the one test with one, with one group of scores on it. But is there a way to kind of up your scores if you didn't do so well on something? How, like, possible to get it remarked, if you will?
Yeah. So if you felt that your score that you were given was not representative of your performance on test day, you could reevaluate. We call it a reevaluation, which means that you're getting a given section remarked by different raters. So yeah, you could apply for a reevaluation, which is done in your CELPIP account. There is a fee to reevaluate a component, so it's $55 Canadian plus tax to reevaluate one component. So yeah, how it works is basically new raters will mark your writing or speaking section. And if your new score comes out higher, you will be refunded for the reevaluation fee that you paid. If your score, if they were to feel that you deserved a lower score, we would keep your original score. So there's no risk in losing marks with the reevaluation. Your score will either stay the same or increase. So you do have 6 months from the time your test is taken to apply for a reevaluation. My only recommendation would be only apply for a reevaluation if you really feel that the score you received is not what you should have received. Don't apply for a reevaluation just in hopes that, by some random occurrence, you'll get a higher score. So that would be my feedback. And don't evaluate the listening and reading sections because they are multiple choice. So the scores will not change most likely.
That's a good tip. What's the multiple choice? Can't really screw that one up. Okay. Okay, that's cool. Let's move on. I got a few more questions here. So let's see. I got a few more. Okay, how about this? If a test taker wants to improve their vocabulary, for instance, what are some of the strategies that they can do to improve their vocabulary?
Is this for CELPIP or for CALE?
For CELPIP.
I would just say, just expose yourself to English every day. So, but do things that are fun. So, read an article about something you're interested in. Maybe it's a sports article if you like, for example, basketball. Watch some YouTube videos on something you're interested in. But just make sure that you're keeping track of the new words that you're learning. And maybe you can write them down on cue cards or however you can best remember them, and just review them every day. That way you're, it's not going in one ear and out the other. So you're learning and you're remembering the new words that you're learning. But it all comes down to exposing yourself to English every day and keeping it fun. Do things that practice in fun ways. That way you're enjoying and you're learning at the same time. Yeah,
that's good advice. I'm going to ask you one other question because this comes up a lot with people. They're concerned sometimes that their accent might actually affect their score. So do you guys have any comments on that?
I would just say that, so accents will not affect your score. Raters look at many things when they're coming up with your overall speaking level. I would just say try to speak as clearly as possible. And I know that sometimes when we're anxious at the test center, we might speak really quickly. So just try to watch your speed. That way you're speaking clearly and at a normal pace. And that will allow the raters to best understand you. But no, this is in Canada, it's a very beautiful multicultural country, and many people have accents. So our raters are actually also trained in being able to properly evaluate people that have accents. So rest assured, it will not impact the score that you receive. Just try to speak clearly and at a pace that raters can understand you.
Yeah. I think that's good advice, man. Anna, did you have anything else you wanted to add about CELPIP?
Well, what Patrick just mentioned was great. I think one of the things, at least it's my favorite thing, is to listen to podcasts or TED Talks. I think that's a great avenue for just practicing, learning new vocabulary. All in all, there's like so many different things that you can do nowadays, or even the audiobooks. I think those are fantastic. So if it's something that you're interested in, that you like, it could be your favorite topic, your favorite genre, use that, and that will help you increase your vocabulary, help you increase your listening as well. So there's quite a few things that you can do there.
Awesome. Okay. You know what, guys? I'm going to wrap it up there because I think that covers a lot of the questions that are there. There's a few other ones, but I think we actually really covered those. So did you have any final words about CELPIP that you wanted to throw out there?
For me, practice. I think that's the best advice I can give anyone, is to do their best, practice as much as you can, prepare for it, and if possible, do it ahead of time. Don't wait to the last minute, because that usually affects a lot of the test takers, because they're already stressed out that they have to fill out these applications, they have to hand it in at a certain time, or there's a deadline. That puts more pressure on people. If now you have the information, start preparing, start reading, check out all the information that we have online, and if you can, do it ahead of time. So, but best of luck, whatever your journey is. I hope everything goes well.
Cool. That's fantastic advice. And you know what? I just want to say one last thing before we give Patrick the last word. One of the things that I always tell people, especially my clients that are coming here, is if they need to up their English scores and everything, I'm like, start now, because you can't cram for an English exam for your proficiency. If you have work that you need to do, it's the name of the game is, time. It takes time to be able to get that up to an acceptable level. I always tell people, I had a friend when we grew up in school, he'd come over from Germany. And I remember, now, mind you, we were in elementary school, and we used to have a little fun with him because we would teach him words that meant different things. And we thought that was really funny because he'd be saying one thing when it meant something else. But that's how, like, when you are in grade 3 or 4. But I'll tell you, when he came over, and you don't have to guess my age, but when he came over, there wasn't really established ESL classes or the support that people had, but he was able to pick up English, no joke, mostly through watching TV. He picked up a lot and hanging out and, I guess being linguistically abused in the schoolyard with a bunch of grade 3s and 4s. But you know what? That's how he learned English. And so I always think about that, because it's something that, you can do. If you're just exposed to it, you're gonna pick it up. So that's great. Patrick, last word, man. What do you have to say? CELPIP, go.
I was going to say, you guys hit on a lot of great stuff. Yeah, and just keep it fun, because you always learn best when you're immersed in stuff that you're interested in. So you don't want it to feel like, you have to study. You should enjoy it. So just try to incorporate things that you're interested in. Yeah, I know myself, I'm reading the sports news every morning, and there's so many new words, vocabulary. So, but that's something I'm interested in. So, yeah, as you guys mentioned, start early, prepare, learn the test format. The practice test will really give you an idea of how the real test is. And best of luck to all of you. And we want the best for you guys. So just know what your options are when it comes to English testing.
Awesome. All right, well, let's leave it there. You know what? If I can sum up with one thing, I think that we all kind of, if you think about all the different things that we just spoke about, the one thing that I think everybody can take away from this is there's no quick fix, and you got a plan. And like anything in life, you require a plan. When I do stuff with Second Passport, I'm all about, guys, you got to have a plan. So it's the same thing with CELPIP. It's the same thing with kale. It's the same thing with everything. You have to plan and you have to prepare for this. Otherwise, the result's not going to be great. So, guys, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. And yeah, I hope this is helpful. Like, honestly, if, this really helps out just one person, I think it's a win for everything. So thanks, guys, for taking the time to speak with me and get this information out there to hopefully help some people.
Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Take care, guys. We'll talk to you soon, okay?
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Brandon.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And we'll stop there. Okay, you know what? I'm going to
put that fan back on for a second.
Sorry, me too. So you know what? This is what I drink one of these every day, man. It's crazy. Gallon of water every day. I'm at 3:00. Yeah. Listen, let's stop and then we'll hit the same link to come back in. And then it should record again as a thing to keep it cleaner. That's it. So why don't we do it in like 2 minutes? I think when we're not speaking, I was messing around with the mutes and everything. I think what we'll do is when somebody's not speaking, then we'll just kind of mute it because I think it seems there's a bit of an echo that seems to go away. I don't know. Is it just me that's hearing that? Okay, I guess it's just me.
Yeah, I'm not really hearing it.
I can't hear Anna at all. Can you hear her?
No.
We'll just mime this one, okay, Anna? Yeah. Movie, 2 words.
Reader lips. Yeah.
Right? Audrey Hepburn. Okay. Yeah, I got it. Hey. Okay. All right. So I guess we'll see you in a few minutes. Let's do it in 2 minutes, okay?
Sure.
2 minutes? Okay. Cheers.
All right. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.